We're joined now by ACCC Chairman Rod Sims. Mr Sims, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Why have you given this deal the provisional tick?
We found that there were material benefits. They weren't large, but we found there were benefits to particularly Qantas, but also Emirates customers in terms of more frequencies, more destinations, of course, frequent flyer points redeeming, and benefits also to Australia's tourism industry, and there were some cost efficiencies. And we found that while those benefits weren't large, the sort of detriments or disadvantages of the deal were actually quite small, and that's because the international aviation industry is really quite competitive. So on the routes where Qantas and Emirates overlap, we didn't find that there was going to be any real problems for consumers, with the single exception of the New Zealand routes.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that. Why have you imposed or intend imposing restrictions on the ability of this code-sharing deal on the New Zealand route?
It's not restrictions. What we've done is said that on various routes, the most popular routes really between Australia and New Zealand, there's actually three players on those routes: Qantas, Emirates separately, and New Zealand with its partner Virgin. And what we're saying is that Qantas and Emirates must maintain the capacity they have on those routes now. And if they maintain the capacity, then we're confident there won't be any consumer detriment.
Now, Qantas and Emirates, as you know, wanted a 10-year deal. You've restricted them to 5. Why is that?
We've restricted it to 5 because the benefits, as I say, while material, aren't large. We want to see how that capacity restriction on the Australia-New Zealand routes plays out, and also because in deciding that there aren't many detriments from the deal, we've made assumptions about which way the aviation industry worldwide is going. Now, we're very confident about the competitiveness of international aviation, but this is a serious tie-up between two competitors who are the major competitors on the Australia-Europe routes, for example. We're just keen to make sure that we keep a close eye on how this plays out, so that it plays out as we expect it will. A
concern has been expressed all through this process about the impact of this tie-up on those European routes, particularly the very popular Kangaroo route between Australia and the UK. Do you agree with some of those concerns that if you do in the end tick off on this deal, that competition in that very long haul route will be further reduced?
We don't think so. Our original concern, certainly one I voiced, because I'm quite aware that Emirates flights are probably a bit cheaper by and large than the Qantas flights, and so we were concerned that the Emirates fares might go up to the Qantas fares under this alliance, but there's just too many other competitors for that to happen. You've got Singapore Airlines, you can fly to London via Singapore. You've got Cathay, you can fly via Hong Kong. You've got Etihad, you can fly via the Middle East, and you've also got more options coming from the Chinese airlines. So we're very confident that Emirates won't think about pushing up its prices, or the alliance won't, because if they do, people will take other alternative flights to London.
Qantas boss Alan Joyce was very loudly saying through this process as well that this deal was critical to the future viability of Qantas's international routes generally and operations. How much did that play in your considerations?
Really not much at all. As a competition regulator, we're never usually concerned about individual competitors. We're concerned about the competitive process and how that plays out in the long-term interests for consumers. So we were looking to see, what does this deal do to competition? How does it affect consumers? Is there net benefit for the long-term interest of consumers? And we think there is. It's not really our job to look after the profitability of a single airline, even if it's Qantas.
Yeah, okay. Now, this is a draft decision, of course. Where to now, Rod Sims?
We get comments from those who are interested. I think it's 18th of January, at some time mid to late January, when the deadline is for people to give us comments, and then we will aim to get a final decision out sometime in March 2013.
But it's very unlikely, given the way these draft determinations have gone in the past. It'd have to be a very strong objection for you not to proceed with the final tick.
Look, it would have to tell us something that we're not aware of now. That's right, Michael, and I think it's fair to say, while there's a lot of reservations amongst Qantas and Emirates competitors. None of them were outright, or very few of them, if any, were outright opposing the deal. So, look, that's fair to say. It would be surprising, but we'll keep an open mind on this. The whole point of putting out a draft determination is so that people can understand our thinking and see whether there's any flaws in that. So we'll be awaiting those submissions with keen interest.
Rod Sims from the ACCC, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Michael.
Welcome back to the program. Well, Emirates says its 10-year deal with Qantas is a win-win for both carriers. Sky News business reporter James Duggan-Nixon spoke with the president of Emirates Airlines, Tim Clark, and began by asking if this deal was opportunistic given all the troubles facing Qantas International.
We don't look at it that way. We're looking at something that, as I said earlier, adds value to what we do. The notion that we should come together on the basis of the deal, the way it has been structured, as I said, it's a value proposition for both carriers. We certainly value Qantas coming through Dubai and maintaining its international operation, one, into the United Kingdom, two, that they should move to Dubai. We've always wanted to have Qantas in Dubai, and my principals have often expressed an interest in trying to get Qantas into Dubai. That's not to say that they should stop operating to Singapore, but I'm just saying it would be, they wanted Qantas to come. Now they're coming in a very large way with a couple of 380s northbound and a couple of 380s southbound per day. So it's great for Dubai. So yeah, it's a good fit. I don't think this is to the detriment of either carrier, and I'm sure it'll help Qantas as it reorganises its businesses within the Qantas group, and gives them the benefit and the time and the resource to be able to do things in other areas such as Asia that they're so keen to do.
This isn't the first time there have been talks, a dalliance, if you like, between both Emirates and Qantas. So what happened this time? Why is now different?
In the early years, and in fact goes back 16 years, we actually started with a codeshare with Qantas, which the management then wasn't particularly supportive of. Look, they have their own reasons, I'm not going to comment on that. What we have today is a completely different management. They are very forward-thinking, very internationalist in their thinking, and we are a very international-minded airline. There is a high degree of good chemistry between the two management groups, which helped this go to the level that it has done today. When we first met 4 months ago, I was surprised that it worked so well, and as I said earlier, the die was cast at the first meeting, because I realised, I think Alan did as well, that this could get traction in many other ways, to a far greater extent than we originally thought when we had the initial meeting. So no, it's something that I think is going to be very strong for both companies.
You talked about the instant meshing, if you like, between yourself and Mr. Joyce and your executive teams. It was a very quick negotiation process, but were there hiccups, or what were the sticking points?
Surprisingly not. One, it did surprise me the speed that it went, and it was because of the fact that there were no major hiccups, and that we were all determined to get this job done as soon as possible. And as we worked through a very complex set of arrangements, I think we signed almost a 200-page document this morning. The teams came together and there were no real problems, and every time there was a problem that might have been referred to Alan and myself together, we resolved them fairly quickly. And that was the beauty of the arrangement, because many of these arrangements in the past that we have done, or Qantas and other airlines have done, have been brought down by the detail, and this one wasn't in that category at all. It was a fine agreement.
The competition watchdogs granted conditional approval to a proposed tie-up between Qantas and Emirates. The ACCC now wants restrictions, though, on routes between Australia and New Zealand, on the basis that they could negatively impact competition. It's also suggesting the alliance be authorised for 5 years. It says, given the dynamic nature of the aviation industry, it'll be necessary to review this pact sooner than 10 years. The determination's still in draft form, final decision slated for March.